Hey folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. This Honda Pioneer 520 is one of the smallest Pioneer models that Honda makes, and it's also one of the smallest utility side-by-sides on the market, period. And in this video, we are going to hit the trails and talk about how it rides, but really we're going to look to answer one question. Can this small unit handle big jobs? Let's load it up and find out. Right up top, let me hit you with the numbers. Overall length on this unit is listed at 105 inches, width is 50 inches, while the wheelbase measures in at 73 inches. Ground clearance is measured at 8.5 inches, while the tires you're looking at are 24 inches in diameter. Finally, the curb weight on this unit is 1,067 pounds, while the overall fuel capacity is 15.4 liters. I mentioned off the top, we are going to do some trail riding just to see how capable this unit is, but now I do have to get to the suspension. So we just have a typical double wishbone independent suspension setup in the front and the back. Up here in the front, 5.8 inches of travel and 5.9 in the rear. So no massive travel numbers, but of course you don't need them in a unit like this because it's not about a plush ride flying down the trail. It's about how hard it can work, and that's when we get to the dump bed back here. So this is probably the most important buying characteristic of this machine. If you're going to buy one, you want the dump bed. Honda also realized that because previously they had the Honda Pioneer 500, which is still for sale in the States, and it only had a rack back here, just a typical metal ATV rack. Well, in 2021, they said, you know what, that thing needs a dump bed. So they brought along this 518cc engine and then also the bed back here. So the bed measures just about 2 feet by 3 feet, a little bit bigger than that. And what I do like about it is it does have D-rings down in the corner so you can tie things down, and it has a gas assist shock. Now you can only dump this bed from the driver's side. This handle doesn't exist on the other side, so yes, only from one side, but still, it's nice that it dumps, and it's nice to have that gas assist shock so that you don't have to lift it up if it's all on you. Now the other thing back here, I really like this clasp system to let your tailgate down. Very simple, easy to use, these nice cables, and then you're also getting cutouts up here in the top of the bed which can accept Honda Pro accessories, so you can add quite a few different things to the back end of your Pioneer. So nice to have the dump bed, and I think that's one of the main reasons why you're going to go for this unit. Now, like I mentioned already, I want to load this thing up. Capacity here is rated at 450. I want to take it right to 450 and maybe beyond and really see how it works. Time to load up. So I'm going to use my rubber mats here today. Now, generally, we're putting these in the beds of pickup trucks, and they are pretty big, but it's not really a worry in a truck bed. In this bed, yeah, it's going to be pretty tight, and that's just something you need to consider. This machine is not huge, so the bed isn't massive. Now, I don't want to say it's a downside. It's just something you have to be ready to deal with, because on the flip side, this unit's 50 inches, so it can fit in a ton of places that a so-called full-size utility machine just wouldn't fit. Even just around the property here in the parking lot, I love the size of this thing because, yeah, it just gets in anywhere. So the downside is you might not fit a ton of stuff back here. The upside is the size. And yeah, right now I'm going to try to load up 5 of these things, which is 480 pounds because they're 96 pounds each. And if I can get 5 in this bed, that means we are going to be a little bit overloaded, but that's exactly what I want to test, see how this thing handles when it's a little over that capacity. So let's get loading. And 5, we're loaded. Let's see how it goes. Now we're loaded up. You can see the rubber mats behind me. I did manage to get all 5 in, which means that's 480 pounds. So yes, we're 30 pounds
over the limit. I'm curious to see how it handles. Before we go though, I can show you the basic operation, and it's very basic. There's not really a lot going on in here because there doesn't need to be. So we have our manual versus automatic switch right over here. You have your 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive lever. We're leaving it in 4-wheel drive, and oh my gosh, the mosquitoes are brutal today. We also have our light switch up here just above the key, so that's lights on or off. And then the other important thing with this model, the paddle shifters. You have to use the paddles if you're in manual mode to shift those gears. Of course, if you're in automatic, you don't have to worry about it. And then there's one other operation I want to show you. I'll start it. So to put it in reverse, it's a little different than a lot of other models. First of all, that's your handbrake. Yeah, all the way down there's the parking brake. A bit of an annoying spot, but there you go. Now for reverse, we're going to downshift until you see neutral up there, and then you're going to go ahead and pull out this little handle from underneath the dash, hold it out, downshift again, and that's how you find reverse. This is interesting because in Honda's other models, like the Rubicon ATV for example, they've actually installed a system which is a quick shift into reverse, meaning you don't have to go through neutral. It'll go from first right into reverse if you hold a special button. There's nothing like that here, so you have to actually downshift all the way. So I'm very curious to see the difference between manual and automatic too, with the weight on the back. For now, let's go auto, and let's go. All right, let's take off now, folks. So I showed you the switch between automatic and manual, and I will say that the transmission pronounces itself almost right away. You just get these big kind of jerky shifts. You feel it wanting to shift, and then boom, the transmission just sort of slams into gear. So that's an automatic. Yeah, what can I say? I don't love it. There's another one of those big shifts right there. And then if you slow down too, the downshift is usually very pronounced. Yeah, boom, it's very pronounced. So automatic mode is nice to have because I realized Hondas for a long time were manual only. But yeah, the automatic mode here is not very smooth. And that's why I do like manual, because watch this. I'm going to go from third to fourth here. Way smoother. The key is I lifted off the throttle. All I had to do was lift off, kind of take the power off the drive line, hit that upshift, and it smooths it out. So once you learn to drive with it a little more in manual mode, you can smooth it. But if you're in automatic mode, you have to be ready for some pretty jerky shifts. And that's sort of one of the downsides of having the gear-on-gear transmission rather than having a CVT here. Now I will also mention in manual, maybe this is obvious, but it will downshift for me. If I forget to downshift, it will do that automatically when the RPMs just get so low so you don't stall out. So there's third and there's second. So it did that all by itself, even though I'm in manual mode. Otherwise, it's all on me. And once again, second to third, yeah, it's all about just lifting off the throttle to smooth out those shifts. So the transmission, I do like the gear-on-gear feeling because you really get that direct connected feeling, but it's jerky. There's just no way around it. It is a jerky transmission. Now let me talk about the power, and it's honestly one of the more impressive aspects of this unit. Even though I've basically loaded it up right to capacity, I don't feel like I'm starved for power. I don't feel like I have to put my foot that much further into the throttle pedal to make sure I get moving. And I'm out here just running on the trails right now. So it's one thing to be running around sort of on a flat parking lot or a paved parking lot even. But out here, yeah, you need a bit of power. I'm up, I'm down, I'm bumping over rocks and sticks. And again, I don't feel like it's all that different from just an unloaded Pioneer 520, which is also a good thing. And that story basically carries over to the dynamics. Now, can I feel the weight behind me? Absolutely, I can. I can feel the back end sitting a bit low. I can feel my nose up. I can feel a little bit more lightness in the steering. And yes, there's no power steering here. This is a non-power steering model, which I'm okay with at this price point. That's what it's all about, saving a few bucks. And actually right now the steering's a little bit lighter because I have the weight in, and it feels pretty good, but it still doesn't feel sketchy or anything like that. And because it's not power steering, I mean, I get all the feedback through to my hands, all the kickback, so I know exactly what the machine's doing. So yes, good with the steering. Back to the dynamics, I think the real beauty of what I'm feeling is that the rear suspension is not totally tapped out yet. I'm not at the point where that thing is, riding on the bump stops, coming through the mud. I'm not at the point where it feels like the rear suspension can't do its job. And that's what you want to feel when you're doing exactly what I'm doing today. If I, for some reason, had to transport these rubber mats back into the bush through a rough trail, you want the suspension to still be able to do its job even though it's carrying weight. And that's what I feel like here. I feel like the ride is honestly just as comfortable as it is empty, and that is saying something. So even though the weight rating in that rear bed is 450 pounds, based on what I'm feeling, I can just tell the engineers have baked in a pretty decent margin for overloading. I feel like 500 pounds, yeah, that's probably the sweet spot. I wouldn't want to go much over 500, but 500 pounds is quite a bit of weight for such a small unit. I mean, I even had trouble fitting my rubber mats in back there. I had to stand them up. I'm not used to doing that. But yeah, for something so small, carrying 500 pounds and still being able to be comfortable while going down the trail is a big win. So I think I've already answered the question I asked off the top. Can this little unit do big jobs? The answer, as far as I'm concerned, is yes. I would haul this thing with this much weight in it around basically anywhere.
All right, folks, we're done with the weight now. So let's get these rubber mats out of the bed. Because they were so tall, I just strapped them right to the back of the cage here. But it's sort of nice to have an exposed cage back here for that exact reason. You never know what you're hauling. So if it is an abnormal shape or length, you can go right onto there. Okay, now we're gonna pop the tailgate. They might fall over right away by themselves. And now we're gonna see how much assist the gas assist shock really gives me. Let's see, all by itself, I'm sure it's probably not enough, but let's see. So yeah, no, not gonna do anything by itself. I'm gonna have to lift, see if I'm strong enough here. Oh my gosh! Woo! That was quite heavy. It did take me a pretty good amount of effort to get her up there, but there you go. This is why it's beautiful to have a dump bed. You come along and dump whatever you want, jump back in and pull out, and you're good to go. All right, folks, now it's time for the top speed run. I'm here on an empty road. I'm leaving it in automatic, 2-wheel drive. Let's see what it can do. Ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Well, you saw it right there. 62 kilometers an hour is all we've got here, and it's actually speed limited at 62. I'm not sure if you could hear it, but right at 62, that limiter kicks in, and it won't let me get quicker. It feels like it's probably got a bit more in there, but that's as good as it's getting, 62 kilometers per hour. All right, now let's go do a quick trail ride without the weight on the back. I'm in automatic mode. Let's nail it. And I gotta say, when you really put your foot into it off the line, you feel those abrupt, jerky shifts even more than what I was mentioning earlier. So I know I'm revisiting this point, but yes, a jerky transmission, no doubt, especially in automatic mode. In manual mode, I can kind of smooth it out, but jerky is the name of the game here. Otherwise, what can I say? I mean, we're not even 6 inches of travel. It's not terrible. It feels old school. It feels like what I'm used to feeling from, ATVs that I used to ride 10 years ago. And that's sort of the thing. You can't have high expectations for coming out here on the trail when this machine just straight up wasn't designed for it. That being said, I did run the left hook, which of course is one of our mud trails. Okay, folks, I've got it in 4-wheel drive manual mode. Let's dive into the mud and see how it does. Now the one thing with how skinny this is I'm not gonna fit in these truck ruts. So I'm gonna try to keep my driver's side in the rut and the passenger side above the rut. Oh, perfect so far. I'm in 2nd gear right now. Tires feel good. Nice. Oof. I definitely kissed a rock pretty sweet on the skid plate right underneath.
But yeah, there you go. This is not a trail running machine, but you still want to know that your ATV is capable, and coming through the mud, it felt fine. Tires had grip, and the fact that I was skinnier than those wide ruts actually meant I could keep one tire out of the ruts. Worked well. All right, we're coming downhill now, and I've got it locked in first gear in manual. So let's just crawl down. This is foot off the brake just to feel the gearing. Wow, and it does feel nice and low. This is why it's important to have the manual mode, of course, so you can lock it in. And I think it's also one of the advantages to having a gear-on-gear transmission is you do get a really nice low first gear and that really solid engine braking feeling. Beautiful. Coming into the mud, upshift to second, and that should be all I need. Once again, only one tire needs to go down into the rut so the other one can stay up in that middle section. And we're through. It's also so nice to be so lightweight, and I know these little side-by-sides are all like that, but I'm so used to having trucks back here that this little thing just feels, yeah, so light and small coming through there. It blazed right through like a little billy goat. Nice job, Honda. Now I'll also comment on the size with 2 passengers in here, because I've been riding beside cameraman Liam for a little while now. It's honestly fine as well for 2 full-grown adults. We're close, but we're not rubbing on each other. Even bouncing down the trail, it doesn't feel like we're, running into each other that much. So it's enough for 2 people to actually be legitimately comfortable up here, and which is also good news. So I think maybe the summary there is it's doing everything I expected it to out here on the trail. If you come in with the expectation of this is a utility first machine that's also pretty decent off-road, well then yeah, I think it's going to meet those expectations. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more fun for a trail ride on a Sunday, yeah, this is not really for you. This is, again, my main priority is that hard work, and then the fun factor is totally secondary. And if you come into it with that mindset, it's a solid little machine. I do have one other complaint when it comes to utility, and it's just straight up interior storage. I have a cup holder on my side, a passenger side cup holder, and that's about it. There's not even a glove box here. I really would have appreciated that. Or, a machine like the Polaris Ranger up in the passenger side footwell, they've molded in these plastic bins where you can toss stuff. Some machines put glove boxes up here in front of the steering wheel. Some machines have under seat storage. This Pioneer does not have that either. So yeah, the lack of storage is a little bit depressing up here in the cab, and this is not a price point thing for me. I don't care if it's the cheapest machine on the market. You should be able to add some kind of storage up here, because if you are working with this thing, you inevitably always have something: tools, wrenches, nuts and bolts, ring clamps, who knows, right? But you always have some little bits and bobs that are with you, and it's nice to have somewhere to toss those. Honda's really only giving you the cup holder. That's your only choice up here in the front. Otherwise, everything you're hauling with you is back there in the bed. So yeah, I really do wish, being a utility first machine, this thing had more storage up here in the cab. Well folks, we have come to the end of this one. Now I still have to answer the most important question: what does it cost? Well, in Canada, you're talking about a little bit under $16,000, whereas in the United States, this unit will sell for $9,999. Yes, 10 grand. And I gotta tell you, I feel a lot better about it at 10 grand than I do at 16. At 10, it's at price parity with a ton of ATVs, and I really do think you might be cross-shopping this thing with an ATV. And if you need that dump bed, yes, it is absolutely offering more utility than an ATV. At $16,000, you kind of lose me. I would expect more features here, maybe some more power. Granted, even ATVs are more expensive in Canada, but yes, at that $10,000 price point for all you Americans, I do feel like this is a good deal, especially considering we loaded it up to the brim today and it handled quite well. Now, of course, though, I want to hear from you. Go down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this Pioneer 520 and everything you saw in this video. As always, while you're down below, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button to become a member of TK Power Sports, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. See you guys.